if I could. And as I do that, just a couple of pieces of information. So that I'm gonna do two things. One, just review a couple of things, and I'll take a roll call, see if Braden hops online there.
He is, he just popped on.
Welcome, Braden. Thank you.
How you doing, Braden?
Can you hear us, Braden?
You're muted, man.
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
There you go.
Okay, cool. So, check, and Lee will help keep me honest, Braden, if you need something, because I can't, I don't have it in the back of my head, so we'll do that. So in our packets that were emailed out to you, for those of you that would like, there are the appropriate forms, one for you to fill out, and then a travel expense voucher if you would like to submit that to Mackenzie or Diane for mileage reimbursement. So I just wanted to call that to your attention. And then for tonight's agenda, my goal is to try and dispense with as much for the first 6 or 7 items on our agenda as quickly as possible, so that we can actually get to the main purposes while we're all here. But we have some housekeeping follow-up from last week. So with that said, Mackenzie, would you mind calling roll, please?
Jim Ross,
I'm here.
Leland Wells,
Here.
Mary Jo Beatty,
Here.
Jan Goodpaster,
Here.
Matt Mallory,
Here.
Devin Vernon,
Here.
Brent Brand,
Here.
From. Oh. Richard Wilson,
Here.
Roger Lewis,
Here.
Braden Sisk.
Here. Yes, I'm here.
Everyone?
Yep.
Terrific, thank you. So we have also a binder which Mackenzie and her team helped us put together, and then the packet that was emailed out to you. I just saw the binder when I came in about 10 minutes ago, so I will do my best to try and calibrate binder versus packet. And then as we go through these discussion items, I'll also do my best, and I'll ask Lee and Mary Jo to help me keep track of who would like to add something to the conversation. It's a little bit unique with this long table, and just want to make sure, and hopefully I've been doing an okay job of ensuring that everybody has a voice and opportunity to speak and share. We got a little bit of crosstalk last time, and try and minimize that. So with that said, in your packet on page 2 that was emailed, or in the first red tab, the pink tab behind the March 26th minutes is the April 1st minutes. So
There's
and
no
I
actual
realize that
coloring on
not
it.
everybody's tabs are colored, so
We only have so many.
it's behind the second tab, and the second document in the second tab,
Got it.
which is the April 1 minutes. So I'd ask if anybody had any updates, edits, or corrections that you noted in the Mary Jo.
The item on page 3 under established comparable counties, right before the italicized portion of it, there's a comment that says current Mason County comparable counties, and listed those. The new comparable counties removed Cowlitz and Skagit. No, they didn't. We kept Cowlitz and Skagit and added Kittitas and Walla Walla.
So,
Down below in the italicized portion, the motion is correct. And I contacted Mackenzie today, and she has given us updated charts that show all of those. But
So change the word remove to add in that sentence, correct?
yeah, in that
Okay.
sentence, it's remove.
Are we talking about the April 1st minute?
Yes.
That's on the April 1st minutes, page 3.
I don't have
Page
a
3 in the
page.
packet is the second page of the
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah, the second page of the minutes. But it's under established comparable counties.
Oh,
Am I missing?
Yeah, I
sorry,
must be
the
missing something.
minutes that are in the binder are missing the second page of the minutes, so.
That was from the email.
Oh, okay.
The second page, anyway, it should say the new comparable counties,
We don't have that page.
keep Cowlitz and Skagit and add Kittitas and Walla Walla.
Okay,
So change the word remove to keep.
you got that?
I got it. Anyone else need, this is,
All right, Thank you, Mary Jo. Any others? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the April 1 minutes as amended.
So moved.
Mary Jo and Jan?
I'll second.
I think that's done. It's like an auction. I saw your hand move when I looked up, so we'll do that. All right. So last week we approved all of the bylaws with the exception of the terms. In the mailed out packets, that's on page 5, and it's the draft bylaws are behind the 3rd tab in your binders. And under section 4 for term. As the minutes reviewed, what we discussed was, and I understood the intent of the commission to be, is to try and stagger the terms and have some of the positions around the table, half of those that were appointed and half that were drawn by lot, end in December of 2025, and then the other half end in December of 2026. And we had also discussed not worrying in the bylaws at the moment about how we're going to go about deciding who's who or which is which, but that we would determine that after we get through our initial main priority, which is the salary review. So the wording that is on that page, whichever version you're looking at, that's underlined, is what I shared with Mackenzie, and Deputy Prosecutor Whitehead reviewed it to make sure it was legal. I'm getting a head nod. So any questions about that? Does that align with
Where are you
our
finding
intention?
the bylaws? Samantha?
So in the,
I'm not seeing
behind
it.
the 3rd tab in your binder, you'll have to count
1, 2,
tabs.
3.
And the first page says resolution on it.
Just grab that entire staple section, pull that.
Jim, I'll be right back.
Okay. So.
Oh, here's the resolution.
Yep,
Okay.
and then go behind that,
Thank you.
and
Like at you.
that right there
Right
is
there.
underlined.
Thank you.
Does that, what I shared, capture what people recall us discussing last week? Staggering the terms, half the commission expiring December 2025 and half in 2026. It falls within the resolution that the county commissioners passed, which stated the first term of 2 years doesn't end until December of 2026, even though that's closer to 3 years. Devin?
The point of this is to stagger one group into the next group, so I think, if we could have some sort of wordage where the 5 new people that come in after December 2025, that their term does not end, but they'll continue on to the next group and they'll pick, right, the continuation of that. Because I guess just specify that their term does not end on December 31, 26.
So when,
Right, they would do 2 years and there'd be 5 new people, right?
so I believe that the way, yeah, I think I understand what you're asking, Devin, it's a good question. So
It's implied.
the first part of the sentence, appointments to the salary commission shall be for terms of 2 years. Once that 2025 group exits, they would be appointed or drawn by lot by the auditor for a 2-year term that begins in January of 2026.
Right.
Which would allow that group specifically to continue to
Continue on.
2028.
Yep.
Okay.
It's only the first appointments to the commission shall be for 2 terms, with the first term ending. That was worded a little bit interesting, but this intent, I think, is that, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Roger?
We, the first that are to be moved on down the road, would we have, or what road would we venture down to be reselected?
So if you were appointed, the county
Yes.
commissioners could appoint
Yes.
you again.
Yes.
If you're originally drawn by lot, the county commissioners could, if you applied, appoint you. So there's two options for those that were drawn by lot, or you could potentially be drawn by lot again.
Okay, now that's just as clear as day. Do we need to put that in, on paper?
I think that myself is that that is what is in here, and the rest of the bylaws would move that forward.
That's good.
Without adding a whole bunch of more words.
All right.
If that's okay with everybody. It sounds like you're okay with it, Roger. Matt, and then,
I just have a clarifying question. The way this is worded, and I'm working under this assumption, is this is an annual group. It meets yearly to determine salaries. So we would meet with this group in whole again in 25. And then at the end of that, whatever that cycle is, we would then transition to potentially a different makeup.
Yeah.
So as a whole, we meet as a group again in 25, this group right now. That's the way I kind of read this.
yes, we could call a meeting at any time.
Right.
And I might just float the possibility that after we're done with this initial, like getting to where we want to be at the end of this month, and give it a little bit of a break, since have met for 5 weeks straight at that point. But perhaps in June or July, we check calendars and convene the group to reflect on what we went through, to affirm that list of salary considerations that we're building, like what went into things, and that we determine at that time, maybe we ask the auditor to come in and draw lots, because he's getting good at that with this process, or we roll dice or something to figure out fairly or evenly who wants to continue. There was also the consideration that some persons, or we could choose to do that in 2025, but there was a consideration that someone brought up last week too, that maybe someone for health reasons or other reasons decided that they couldn't continue and they would withdraw themselves. And so that's always an option as well.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to get in the weeds. I'm just thinking the actual cycle for, in my world, we use it for contracts. So we have a start date of normally September 1, and then it ends August 31st.
Mm-hmm.
And so we usually set salaries beginning on that day for that cycle year.
Yeah.
So with this group, when we reach a consensus and a decision, that goes before the commissioners for immediate implementation.
When we,
May 1, ideally.
when we reach, as I understand it, when we reach a decision about changing salaries, it goes into effect right away.
Right.
And we could do that multiple times. I don't suggest that we do.
Right,
But
so
it does allow us
I guess
to
my
do
question
that.
is,
And so between now and then, I've heard a couple of different things just in conversations, but I know what our goal is right now is to try and make those decisions by the end of this month. In future, I think there'd be some coordination and longer time period to work with the auditor and or the county administrator about when having the salary information would be most helpful.
I'm just trying to think of a cycle, because
Yep.
if it's May 1, it's annually implemented, or does it go to the budget cycle in the county, or does it match up with the other cycles of the represented and non-represented groups?
I think that,
It's a calendar
yeah,
item, 'cause
Auditor
I- you
Dunkel, do
know-
you have the answer to that question?
Well, just a couple thoughts. I wouldn't worry about trying to synchronize salary changes for elected officials with any other salary change activity that the county undertakes, represented or not, right? You guys are gonna determine your own timing on that. The other thing is, if and when there is an opening in one of the commissioner positions that are filled by the auditor by random lot, that's gonna be filled by the same process. We're gonna go to the voter registration database, I'm gonna generate a random list, and I'm gonna start calling, just like I did when I contacted you guys. So if you were to get if you're picked by lot, and you get later appointed to one of the commissioners for positions because you wanna do that, you wanna stick with it, that your backfill, or that the vacancy that you leave will be filled by the same lottery process.
And just to clarify, thank you, that helps. And just to clarify, the deputy prosecutor provided us clarification last week that whether you're appointed in beginning in January 2025 or drawn by lot, if by chance you were drawn again, which is unlikely.
Buy a lottery
that
ticket if
that
that
would-
happens.
that would be your second term,
Okay.
and you would term out after that,
Okay.
that 2-year term.
All right.
So, good question.
I guess my
so-
ultimate question is, this group would be involved in two cycles, 24 and 25.
Yes.
That's our
Okay,
understanding. Yep.
not 3 cycles, 24,
No,
25, and then again at the end of 25.
correct.
Okay.
Do you have something as well?
No, I was just,
Oh, okay. Good questions. Anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the section 4 of the bylaws, which was not previously approved, as written on page 5 or the second document of tab 3, page 2.
I'll
It's
put,
also on the screen behind you.
I'll put forward the motion to approve the term limits on section 4 as written.
Thank you, Lee.
and I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nope.
Did I call for a vote on the minutes too?
No, you
I
didn't.
forget.
Yeah, you did.
No, there was no vote. There was a call for
Oh.
motion.
I didn't hear
no
any
vote.
objections. Does anybody object to the meetings?
No.
minutes previously
We did, yeah,
approved?
we did,
Skip that part, yeah.
yes.
Yeah. He called for the motion, but no, no.
Okay. So, moving along, item number 5, on top of your binders, I think, was a memo that was also circulated via email by Mackenzie to you all last week. This was thoughts that I captured from our conversation. There was interest in having the Salary Commission query all of the Mason County elected officials with brief responses. The reason for the memo was because, based on our time frame currently, we have 2 more meetings following tonight to try and complete our work unless additional meetings are added. And so if we were to have each elected official come in and speak to us, of which there are 7, even if a very strict timeline of 10 minutes, that would eat up a meeting in and of itself. So this memo was the alternative to try and solicit some feedback. Please describe your job functions and responsibilities. How do you feel your salary compares with other Mason County elected officials? Are you satisfied with your role, your current role, and do you believe the salary you receive attracts viable people to consider running for your position? With responses due to Diane and McKinsey no later than Thursday, April 11th. And appreciate at the bottom of that page that Lee, Richard, Mary Jo, and Jan had responded with comments. Lee and Jan that said it looked great and fine with the questions. And then Richard looks good for the most part, suggested adding the following verbiage to question number 2 and or your counterparts from other counties. So that's a suggested addition to question number 2. And then Mary Jo commented that the memo is okay, and just remember that the Salary Commission is setting the salary for the positions and not for the individuals. So Richard or Mary Jo, do you have other things to add to that? No?
I just wanted to make one comment. When we look at comparable counties and everything, we're looking at just positions. If we looked at individuals, we've got brand new people in there, and then you've got Lisa Frazier, who's been a treasurer for 20 years and is still making that same salary. So I think our job is to look at the position, not try to figure out equity for other people that have been in for a long time. That's real difficult. But that was my only thought on that whole thing.
And I have a small issue with the verbiage is that, and in other counties, do we want to muddy the water with their responses for counties that we aren't using as comparable counties?
Would it
You
help
know,
to say
there-
other comparable counties and for us to provide those? Would that help?
That would help. You know, if they could go straight to
I see
Skagit
what you're
County,
saying.
say, you know, we're way out of line. you know, if I could go there and make that amount of money.
With other Mason County elected officials, or Mason County or comparable county elected officials.
And or your counterparts from other comparable counties, see list. And we could insert that list to the memo.
Yeah.
Devin.
Devin.
One thing that I'm not sure if I fully support the memo and the question, mostly for what Mary Jo said, in that we're evaluating the position and not necessarily the person. But that being said, one of the things, if we do send it out, that I was wondering if we could ask is on one of the meetings from 2019, it was recommended that the elected official salaries are the same, to keep them the same as the commissioners. So my question, I guess, that I would like to ask is it still the opinion of the commission that they would like to keep the salaries of the other elected officials the same, knowing that we still have discretion over what the ultimate outcome of that is, but what was the reasoning behind that, and is that something that they're still of the opinion of, or is there a dissenting opinion from that?
Of just the commissioners or all seven?
The elected officials
all
being
7 positions.
set as equal to the commission.
Yeah, I guess for the memo, this would be going out to all 7. Are you suggesting a 4th question that would go only to the county commissioners?
That's a good point. I didn't think that through, I guess.
It looks like there's 6 positions all being paid the same. And there's 3 county commissioners,
And the
so
other,
that's technically 8 people.
I don't know if I want a separate question for the commissions, so to speak, on that.
and I guess
It does-
from
it
what I
is-
heard from Commissioner, or from Chair Netherland, Chair Netherland when he came in, and I thought also from you, Auditor Dunkel, was that I think Commissioner Netherland's comments, and I've heard him say this, but it might not have been to us, like, I don't have a dog in the fight, or something along those lines, but.
He did.
Was that to us?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm not sure if he would choose to want to weigh in, but Mr. Auditor, does that,
Please restate the question.
so go ahead, Devin.
Is it still of the opinion of the commissioners, of the commission, to keep the elected salaries the same as the commissioners?
You guys can make that decision.
Knowing that we can make that decision.
I'm sorry.
Understanding that we still have the discretion to make that decision, is that?
Right.
I think what the auditor is saying is just that that's our call, and we need
That's
to
your
decide
call.
that.
Yeah.
You guys are autonomous, right? That
Yeah.
is your call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
so you're comfortable not adding that?
Yeah, I'm comfortable not adding it.
Lee?
I would also like to say, if we are going to add on number 2, if we're gonna add the comparable counties, I would suggest that we put in the list that we have of their comparable salaries, on there. And then whatever rubric that we add to it, that way they don't have to go searching for those answers in order to answer the question. Or searching for that information in order to answer the question.
Yeah, I think we can
Yeah.
definitely add those in,
Yeah.
like parentheses, right?
Yeah.
Underneath that question.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to open Pandora's box with that deal. All I was thinking was to get people's opinions,
Yep.
more or less, you know,
Excuse me.
because they've got an idea in their mind, you know, so-and-so down the road is making X number of dollars, and
Yep.
I'm making as much as him, or not as much as him, or, you know, I'm just trying to get an idea of where they feel their mindset is as far as, you know, how they stack up
Yep.
with everyone else, whether it's true or not true or whatever. I'm just trying to get an idea of how satisfied or not people are,
No,
you know, at the time.
It sounds like there's general agreement, support of
Yeah,
that addition,
yeah.
Richard, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
I just have something that's been bothering me. The comparable counties, we added 2 counties without having any information about them. We just went ahead and added them. And I went and checked, and the comment I made at the last meeting about cities having their own governments. And so that the counties are basically responsible for the unincorporated portions of those. And I looked at Walla Walla, and they have about a population of 18,000 in the unincorporated area. Kittitas has a population of about 23,000 in the unincorporated area. Mason County has a population of about 55,000 in the unincorporated area. So we've got twice as much population in the unincorporated areas as Walla Walla and Kittitas. I still don't believe that those two counties ought to be in our comps.
So, thank you, Mary Jo, for that. I guess at this point, I would say the commission has approved the addition of those two counties at this juncture. And we can look a little bit more closely at those individual counties when we start talking about salaries. Right now, I think what we're trying to do is we'll reference the comparable counties that have been approved. We did have information in the packet last week about those counties, things like the total budget and the assessed value and FTEs, et cetera. So we had some, but not what you did the further research on. So maybe if we could, as we look at
We can look at
the
it
salaries,
down the line,
when we look at the salaries here shortly.
Just something that's been bothering me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's always good sometimes to get it out. And then we have 9 other heads that are holding that for when we get to that part of the discussion as well. The one question about the memo that I had, I'll just float this up, I'm not married to it either way, but it's a question that often comes up in the community, not just because of our activity, but prior to that is, how much time do you put in as an elected official per week? I can presume Mary Jo could speak to the life of a county commissioner, and I would anticipate that the other, that 5 of the other 7, sorry, I have no math in my head, are probably spending 40 hours a week or so in the office, like the auditor and the clerk and the coroner, and, but if we just ask them outright, they could tell us, right? The sheriff. I don't know whether he was on scene with a very tragic situation this last weekend, but if he was involved on the weekend, I'm sure that he added to whatever he had done the prior week. So I would anticipate that 40 hours a week is usually a week, but it could be divided up in not being in an office. So I don't know how we feel about adding a 4th question, just to say, please share how many hours in a typical week you may put into this role. Auditor?
Just a couple thoughts, I'm gonna leave, and then I'm gonna leave you guys, but, unless you have any other questions for me, but.
Is it about
I think that's really an interesting question, and it goes back to, I think, the importance of assigning a salary based on the position, not the person.
So is this about the memo itself?
Yeah.
Or- Okay.
Not the
Just
person,
try and keep us on track.
not the personality, right? You have to look at what the position entails, and so your questions really should go about really trying to get a good understanding, what does this job entail? And then with that, the flip side of that would be, because everybody's different, right? Some people are gonna give the position more than what you would expect, and some are gonna give less. But it should still be about the position, not what people are doing to fulfill that position, right? Am I saying that right, Mary Jo?
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'd like you guys to think about is the flip side of it, right? When it comes to running for elected office, what are the proper motivations? And
Yeah, I
if
think.
you've got someone on your board who can give you some insight
Right.
from her time running for office as county commissioner.
Yep,
And so I'll just leave you with that.
thank you. So, for the memo, any other changes, or how does people feel about that fourth question?
I think it's a good idea.
I like the 4th question.
So,
Thank you, sir.
listening to Auditor Dunkel, I do have to agree with him because it does follow along the lines of what Mary Jo was saying, where we're auditing the salary for the position, not the person. And thinking about it, if you think it through, some people take longer to do a job than others. Some people are more efficient, some people are more scattered, whatever the case is. I I think that the best way to phrase that, if we are going to add that fourth question, would be something along the lines of, in your experience, what is an average, work week, hour-wise, or something like that, where it's not, how many hours do you personally put in?
Yeah, so I could add, in your experience, how many hours does this position require in a typical week?
Yeah, yeah. That way we're not feeding directly off of what they do specifically. Because we have more experienced commissioners, we have less experienced commissioners.
Okay. So in your experience, how many hours does this position require in a typical week would be the additional question, along with the addition to question 2 that would add and your counterparts from other comparable counties with the 9 comparable counties listed as part of that question.
Would you want to phrase out one about, instead of it saying, what's the time commitment of this position?
I'm trying to think through, like, how do we get a standard answer for that? So,
I think some of them are gonna ebb and flow.
yeah, so I would prefer being a typical week.
Okay.
And then they can sort of average that out and whatever their own mind might be. I know for myself personally, we can ebb and flow from
40 hours up
40
to
plus
90.
hours to 80 plus hours a week. Just depends on the week.
That's the way mine work.
Yeah.
All right.
And it depends too,
So-
if you're having, well, this comes into another area, but if you're having to work another job to make enough money to survive, then you're not gonna be able to be here all the time, If you've got somebody retired at home like I had, then I could work 60 hours a week, and it was fine, but, and that's where that last, or the third question comes in, is you believe the salary attracts viable people to consider running for the position,
I'd entertain a motion to approve that memo to be sent out, this memo to be sent out
So moved.
tonight, tomorrow.
As soon as possible.
So, yeah. Yep.
I-
Okay.
Will
Thank you, Mary Jo.
will you be able to read it before she sends it out, make sure that?
Yeah, I will confer with Mackenzie this evening before I leave to make sure that we've got the wording.
I'll put forward that motion.
Mary Jo did, so
she did.
second for
I'll
Lee.
second.
Any further discussion or questions about that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
Devin is opposed, and Braden?
He said,
No, he said aye.
Thank
No,
you.
I'm in favor.
Okay. I will put that here so that I won't-
I've noticed there's a slight lag
There's a
between.
little bit of lag. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually.
there was, a list of what we were referring to as salary considerations. Anybody found that in the binder? Is
Oh, yeah.
that in there? Is it under one of these tabs?
Yes, I
Roger?
don't remember what.
Is that the mark?
I had mine separate, the ones that we got originally. So I have not been going through.
Are-
My motion was, not motion, gee whiz. You up here and vice versa, so you can see us all, including the monitor. That's
Oh.
all.
Yeah, just literally swap us.
Yeah, Lee's got me covered if.
Yeah.
if,
Oh,
he
all right,
wants.
fair
So,
enough.
He's my mirror.
Yep, it
I
works.
look much better that way.
And they don't have to see my bald head.
There you go.
'Cause, I mean, it's pointed right at the camera, that's a heck of a glare.
Last week, I shared, some thoughts and I emailed these, I think, to Mackenzie, of what's called salary considerations. So this was the list of things that we're kind of building as we go, to think about, otherwise sometimes referred to as a compensation philosophy. Things such as equity between elected positions based on responsibilities, or equal to or percentage of commissioners, or percentage above under sheriff, using comparable counties was an element that we've decided on. Percentage of Superior Court judge salaries or not, other counties use that. Cost of living or inflation adjustments. I referenced the resolution from 2013 that has capped the commissioner's salaries at no more than a 1% increase per year since that time. I don't think it's in your binders, and so attractability, that was brought up already once this evening. So those are the kinds of things, I was just gonna review that, I just did verbally, and we'll make sure that we get a
That's really
copy
good.
out on that. Roger,
Page 1 on the yellow tab.
how many tabs back?
We all
Because
have different
not
color
all-
tabs.
all of us have the same.
And some of us don't have any colors.
Let's see.
Which number tab?
Yeah,
Let's see, so it looks like that one. Elected official salary history resolution.
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
That's what we're looking at.
6, so that tab has, all of the market positions and the tables in it.
Yeah, okay. It has the salaries of the commissioners, the commissioners for district, for the sheriff, and
It's the market position overview is what we're searching for,
It
correct?
doesn't have.
No,
That's it.
we're
I
searching
wrote
for
them down
salary
last week, so I have
considerations.
them in
That was
here.
my other.
It's on the screen.
Oh, it's on the screen.
Oh, there it is.
Ta-da!
Is that in our binder?
Thank you.
It was in the packet that was emailed out.
Okay, thank
That
you.
explains why I don't have it.
So in the packet that was emailed out,
Page 13 on your packet.
thank you, Mary.
Which they sewed me down here when I got here.
So, yeah, on page
There it is.
13 and what's on the screen behind you, this is a draft list, it's a working list, it's not something that we're approving right now, but just kind of adding to as we go. So as we do that, then I have the packet one.
Do you have one? Does
I
anybody
know.
want a copy?
Yeah.
I would like one, please.
I found it.
I wasn't able to print mine off.
Just raise your hand if you want one when I come by. Give you one, there you go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I'll make them charge you. Give you just one copy.
Preemptive.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mark. So this was a working draft, what you just received.
Yeah.
Page 13 in our mail packet.
Yeah.
This could all change, or much of it could change, there's nothing, these are just things to keep in the back of our mind, right? And maybe as we go, there's other things we say, hey, let's add that to the salary considerations, and we can go back and add those to this document. That was the purpose of capturing this, so that going forward, and to Matt's earlier point, next year, or when we do this next time, we can go back and say, oh yeah, that's right, this is how we put this together, and maybe more near term, if anyone asks us questions, which then we have some rationale, some like, we didn't just use a dartboard. We had some good information from
Pull it out of a hat.
HR and Mary and the rest of the Mason County staff and team, so
Thank you for putting that together.
it's a start.
A start.
It works. But, all right. Review information from Human Resources. So Mary is here with us, and without going through everything that's in here, maybe Mary, is there anything specifically new in the packet that you would like to point out? It's all the same that we've seen the last couple of weeks.
Just the compilation of the addition of the adopted comps, so the data is switched. So you have your original, proposed, and then your adopted comps, 3 different data sets. So we've just kept adding on to your data sets.
Okay.
Okay.
And that is in the
Here it is.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about the 6th tab back. Thank you, Mary, for doing that.
And it says market positions, is that where the one?
Yes.
Position.
Yeah, market position overview.
The other thing, the spreadsheet, we had, Mackenzie handed this out this evening to everybody. There was a couple of numbers that were not correct, so we handed it out last week, but we handed it out again this week. And there's been not only my eyes, but Mary's eagle eyes on it as well, so, everything is consistent with how it's being presented. Let me just walk through real quickly how this has been put together. And Mary, please, like,
Are you looking at your one pager
my
or
one.
the market?
my one
Your
pager.
one pager.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the one pager with the row of green across the top, it says one-page summary of comparable counties.
It's this one, the one that they handed us.
Oh, right,
Those-
okay. Yep, got it.
Give us one second, let us, let everybody get their papers out that they're needing.
Yep.
It's this page that has, there you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, he knows what he's looking for, he's just trying to find it.
They just passed it out tonight.
Yeah, it was handed
It was
to us
loose.
tonight.
Oh, well,
top.
pickles.
No, no,
No, okay.
It's the one that has this blue line on it.
All right.
here, tell you what,
All
I'll
right.
share with Rich.
Actually, you got an extra one there.
Oh, we got an extra one right there, there you go.
Oh, all right, thank you.
So I'll walk through that.
Which side do you want, Jim?
Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. The top line in green, which says Mason, are the current salaries of our elected officials. Mary confirmed for me the 160,226 figure for the sheriff, and she's raising her hand.
So yes, that is the current salary right this moment, but just remember for the sheriff, there is that range. Because the undersheriff has a range, so just keep that in mind that there is a range.
The 5%.
Well, there's a whole 10-step range that the undersheriff can get paid with 10 steps, and so that means essentially the sheriff has 10 steps or 5% above that. So that's why on the original documents, there was like, 130,000 or whatever it is on the
There was a range there.
Yeah, but that is the current salary today, yes, sir.
So the 160,000 is the current salary?
Yes.
Yep.
Out of curiosity, were you able to, put the undersheriff's tenure step in here?
It is not in here. Mary and I talked about that, and the reason it's not in here is because we determined last week that we would only just base our decisions on base salary.
Yeah.
And that tenured step up for the undersheriff is in addition to base salary.
Okay, the reason why I ask is I wanted to see what the sheriff has the possibility of losing immediately off of his salary regarding the undersheriff leaving the position in some way, shape, or
So when
form.
we get to talking about the sheriff's salary specifically,
Yeah.
we can go through that.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
wanted to
this-
see if the
this-
information was in here.
This
That's-
salary right now is what the sheriff is currently making.
Yeah,
Yeah. The counties down the left side are the 9 counties that we've approved. Hopefully, if there's anybody that's colorblind, I apologize, we can work that out, and identify otherwise, but, the blue ones are those counties that, utilize a percentage of the Superior Court judge salary.
okay,
The ones with stars have a county manager or administrator. The reason that the star in Grace Harbor's case is in parentheses is that they're in the process of adding a county manager or administrator.
yeah,
So, from all of the charts, on the tab in our binder or that have been provided to us the last couple of weeks, we took the salaries that are currently being paid those elected officials across the 9 counties, where you see there are 2 that are grayed out for Clallam County, that's because they do not have a clerk or a coroner, don't have the position. Where you see the purple, for Cowlitz and Jefferson County, that's because they have a range. For Jefferson County, 2 of their commissioners make one salary and a third makes a different salary. Not sure that we have 100% clarity on the reason behind that, right? It's not what we kind of decided, but
The
we
election cycle, for
It's
whatever reason, they
election cycle.
somehow
decided
based on cycles.
not to do it for
Yeah.
the other 2 for whatever reason.
Yeah, so, but that's why they're in purple, is because
I
Okay.
never made
They're
it,
kind of-
others made.
they're the median salary for those positions in the county. Mark?
There's actually a law that says if the acting commissioners make a change to salary, it will not go into place until a new term starts. So if you have somebody that is, so they create a new salary for a county commissioner, you have a new person get elected or start a new term, the salary can go into place for that one. But for the other 2 that are still in their term, in which they made that decision, their salary has to remain the same, because they don't have a salary commission. With the salary commission, you guys are able to make
that adjustment.
decisions that can immediately go into effect.
I didn't understand that.
Makes
If you're a
sense.
sitting commissioner, you cannot change your own salary,
The sitting commission,
sitting
Yeah.
commissioner.
right.
So it goes into effect the next
And
election
that's
cycle.
why we're here.
That's why we're here, but in Jefferson County, that's why they have different salaries for
Are you talking
different
about
commissioners.
Jefferson? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what
Somebody,
happened to me.
This sounds more like
I know I have a question. Did anybody over here have
anybody
it?
else have a question? I saw a hand, maybe it was yours. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, do we know if Clallam and Jefferson are splitting their coroner pay up, like if they've added it into their prosecuting attorney's pay? The reason why I ask is because when I was younger.
Mary's saying, no, we don't know.
No. Okay, okay.
Yep.
The reason why I ask is when
Yep.
I was younger, my stepmom was a prosecuting attorney for Okanagan County, and that's how they did it, because they didn't have a coroner.
They got it covered.
Yeah, the prosecutors ended up having being on call.
Good, good. So, that explains the numbers. Then right below that chart is the median of those numbers from the comparable counties. That is in red. And the green below that is the percentage above or below the median. So as an example, the Mason County clerk is 13.3% below the median of the other 9 comparable counties, actually 8, bad example, Jim. The auditor is 13.9% below the median of 101,519 of the 9 comparable counties. You're looking on the second page, Joan.
Yeah, there you
Just
go.
on the front page.
I see, okay.
So likewise, the Mason County Sheriff, the median of the 9 comparable counties for the sheriff is 142,108. And the Mason County Sheriff's salary is 162,226. So that's 12.7% above the median of the other 9 counties. Somebody last week, this technically is in a different color like orange, but you can't tell it, I can't tell it. Somebody asked about average, and I'll ask Mary to kind of explain, because I did my best HR job to explain last week. I think Devin or somebody mentioned, I just added that calculation in here as well for kicks and giggles, but Mary and I talked, and I think she confirmed that median is really the most appropriate, because go ahead, Mary, you can explain that.
We're shooting for that 50th percentile, and so median is what captures that number and helps with a lot of some of those weird outliers sometimes. So it's right where we're trying to target more, efficiently than an average is.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So is this summary page, any questions about this before we flip over and look at the other page of it? This gets kind of numerically wonky, all right, I'll just,
Now, here we go.
and here we go, all right? So if
All right.
you flip the page over, at the top, you'll see, this is the page with the blue bar at the top. You'll see the same current salaries for our Mason County elected officials, same as on the first page. That very top portion that's been added, WCCSEO, Superior Court Judges, that came off a salary schedule that was provided to us last week, maybe the first and second week that we met. So before July 1 of 2023, that salary was 203,000 plus a little. July 1 of 2023, it was 217,391. And then July 1, 2024, the Superior Court Judge salary will be increased to 228,261. Everybody with me so far?
So we're gonna assume that everybody else is gonna go up.
That's where I'm headed, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so the reason I put that July 1 of 2024 on there is because we are looking at a salary changes potentially for May. If we base it on the first page, we're doing that on existing salaries. Because all of the counties that are highlighted or identified in blue on the first and second page base that off of a percentage of the Superior Court judges' salaries. What I know is gonna happen is that delta, the difference between the median and our current salaries is going to get greater if we don't align with what's happening to the Superior Court judge increase July 1 of 2024. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That works for all but two of the counties, Kittitas and Jefferson, that do not base their elected official salaries on the Superior Court judge. And so in our materials last week or the week before, there was a 2024 cost of living adjustment for statewide elected officials that for 2024 was 3%. So I used 3% as an increase, as a default increase for those two counties that are not based on Superior Court judge counties. Still making sense?
Kittitas and.
Kittitas and Jefferson and Walla Walla, sorry, there's three.
Yeah, okay.
There's three. So, all I did was take the $228,000, 261, and for instance, with the assessor in Clallam County, it's 50% of that.
Mhm.
And then applied the RPP, which was the regional price in,
Parity,
Parity.
regional price parity?
regional price parity, yep.
Regional price parity, to those numbers when it existed. And if you look at just the assessor in that tab that we were looking at in our binder,
Mhm.
And you see that RPP adjustment, you can see that there's RPP adjustments in, get this sideways, in Grays Harbor, Island County, Walla Walla, Skagit, and Lewis County. So that's how you can tell when there's an RPP adjustment, by looking at those. Everybody find the RPP adjustment column? And see the ones that are not 100%?
Yeah.
So when it was 97 or 98 or 96%, that was applied to the calculation I just explained.
Okay.
Superior Court judge salary times the percentage that the county uses of that Superior Court judge salary adjusted by the RPP when there's an adjustment that needs to be made. We all good? Mary, you're not making those funny faces at me, so.
Nope, I think you're good.
Okay, cool. You made a funny face at me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how am I supposed to capture this in the minutes, right? What she's thinking. That's what I'd be thinking. I was.
Great.
So down at the bottom, the median, same methodology, looked at the 9 counties, figured out what the median of the, what would we call this, the 2024 salaries as of July 1st, and then the differences. So the auditor for Mason County, currently on the first page is 13.9% below the median, but we know that after July 1, if the auditor's, Mason County auditor's salary is not changed, it would be 16.4% below the median.
Okay.
Likewise with the county commissioners. On the first page currently, the commissioner's salaries are 17.7% below the median. As of July 1, if no changes are made to the Mason County commissioner's salaries, they would be 20.1% below the median. And then that's how we read the summary. But I'll pause there because it's a lot of numbers to digest and see if that's making sense or helping, or if it is absolutely excruciating and giving people a migraine, we can try something else.
Out of curiosity, Jim, did you by chance figure out our percentage for SCJ if we chose to move our salaries tied to Superior Court?
I did not.
Okay, because I just did quick math, might be a little bit off, but it was like 38%, whereas other counties are running like 40, 43, somewhere in the 45.
Yeah, on that page with the blue bar, Lee, at the top, or on the side rather, I mean, you can look down and say, interesting, Clallam and Cowlitz County are 50% of the Superior Court judge salary for the assessor, AS.
Yeah.
I didn't go through that, but hopefully it's sort of self-explanatory. AS is assessor, AD is auditor, CC is county clerk. CC is county commissioner, CR is coroner, CL is county clerk. So not all positions for all counties have a percentage of the Superior Court salary, but.
I just wanted to add ours in where ours would be 38% of.
Right, and I didn't do that in part
Superior Court.
because last week my sense was just the group was leaning away from doing so. And at the same time, understanding
More info.
by looking at these numbers and the median of the comparable counties were in essence, also pegging against the Superior Court judges because there's 7 of the 9 that do so, or at least some of the salaries.
Yeah.
Maybe not all, but yeah, Mary.
I think there might be just a typo on the Grace Harbor Sheriff one. It's supposed to be 80,000 of the,
80%.
excuse me, 80% of the elected judge, and it's the same as the 43%. That one might be,
Uh-huh.
So it's not.
it would be, what's the,
177, 130 would be the number
Thank you.
with the RPP.
Oh, under the sheriff's salary, the 95,208 is
177 what?
177 something.
177, 130.
and let me pull up that spreadsheet and make that number changes so I can fix the math.
Okay.
This one right here.
How about we do this? I think we know how the charts, thank you if you can make that adjustment. We know how the charts work. And we're next gonna be moving into looking at salaries and we'll get to the sheriff's salary in that process.
Yeah.
At some point, and by that point in time, we'll have the updated or confirmed, officially validated county auditor's math by the county HR manager's math, since my math worked, it was just the wrong number.
You looked at it for so long, and it's just, I get it, I hear you.
So, that said,
Would this be a good time? For
yep, you're reading my mind. So, if there's no questions, I'll allow, like a 10-minute break for us. We come back at 6:40 and, we'll give you an opportunity to stare at these numbers really quick if,
Anybody have any issues with the 10-minute?
Nope.
okay? We're reconvening at 6:40, thanks.
Thank you.
Back into session if I could. What Lee is passing around is an updated version of what we were just looking at. The 2 changes that were made, one was on the page with the blue bar at the top, the sheriff's salary for Grays Harbor.
Yep.
Was, or is, 177, 131. We'll talk about $7 from Mark's lunch tomorrow. But, and the reason.
131?
Yeah, 131, I had just, foobarred the formula in that particular cell, sorry. And the other was, which was the other county, Mary?
Changing
Lewis?
Skagit to 96%.
Yeah, so thank you. Skagit County has an RPP of 96%, and that has not been applied. The good, or the saving grace is that none of the median amounts changed. And that gets back to the way that the median calculation works.
Change
it
the
doesn't.
percentage.
It changed the median amount for the sheriff.
It changed the median amount for the sheriff, yes.
Yes.
For that one, it did, sorry, but not the Grace Harbor, or the Skagit one.
Yeah.
So, please fold up the first one, so we don't get
Round
confused.
pile.
And that will be recycled. And then we'll use the one we just got. So, now we get to the part that we were all waiting for, when we were appointed or our number was drawn, right? In reviewing, the positions, and what I propose is that we look at them in 3 kind of groupings, if you will, or three sets. I don't want to use the word levels, because I don't want to put anyone above or give that impression. So 3 groupings. The first group, and I'll try and limit our discussion to around the assessor, the auditor, the clerk, the coroner, and the treasurer. All of those salaries currently are the same, as is the county commissioners. And then we'll move on to the county commissioner's salary and review that. And then we'll move on to the sheriff's salary. So our ultimate goal is, I think tonight, not to make any final decisions. I think that we could get bunched up in that. But let's see if we're able to put a pin on close. So maybe we're not hitting the bullseye tonight, but we're getting in the first or the second ring, if we're playing darts, around where we think a salary ought to be. That's one thing I'd offer. The second thing I'd offer is, it is up to us as to whether or not we make a decision to move to that bullseye when we identify that in one step, or 2 steps, or 3 steps, or no, more. And if I understand correctly, and Mary, maybe you can shed light on this, when this county has salaries that are behind market, do you adjust those salaries to that 50% median right away, or does that happen over a couple of years, or?
We've done it both ways, depending on the position and what the difference was. So this last class and comp study we did for the non-reps, we did it in 2 different groupings. So one in April of last year, and then the rest of it went into effect January 1 of 24. For the rep employees, we usually just do it all at once during negotiations.
Okay. So, point of reference, kind of a place near us about how that does that. So, that would be my suggestion. We'll hear what's on your mind, Richard.
It's probably in here, and I just don't know where to find it, but should we decide to adopt the same type of a situation where we're using a percentage of the Superior Court judge's salary, do we know what that is for our county?
Yeah.
Where is that?
Well, it'd be,
We do not know what it
Well, we
is
don't have
for
it
our
now.
county.
Yeah.
Without doing that math. It's not on this summary.
Okay.
Last week, the discussion that I recall that we as a group were having was to not do that.
Okay.
Part of the reason for that discussion, as part of that discussion, was that we don't know exactly how any of the other counties, and Mary, I think, confirmed this when we talked on Friday, we don't know how any of the other counties set those percentages when that was originally established. One perspective that was shared with us last week was that whenever those other counties that use a percentage of the Superior Court judge salary determine what the salary of one of their elected positions should be, that they then may have looked at the Superior Court judge salary, said this is the percentage, and if we use that percentage going forward, the task of adjusting those salaries is out of our hands because it's always gonna float with the county judge salary setting system. Yeah.
But we're
So-
using all these as comps.
We're
And
going to
that's what they
effectively
do.
going to average everybody
Okay.
else's out by doing
Right.
that, you're right.
Okay.
So, if we were to do that, we would need to first decide where we want the salary to be, anyway,
Okay. All right.
I
Gotcha.
think, yeah, so.
This has been my thinking on this. So, right now, there's a current structure in place, and there's some historical data around the commissioners setting salary for the elected positions. I'm gonna use the sheriff's position as kind of an
If
outlier.
we could, Matt, if we could say to that first group,
Mhm.
and the reason for that is because sheriff's salary is different than the rest.
Right.
And it's also, has a lot of attention to it. So if we could, I'd like to maintain that first group first.
Okay.
And so if you can continue with your example, but maybe use one of the others.
Well, I guess my example would be, I think it's good to have the discussion about the 3 different groupings, but I am unsure about trying to have 3 different groups
Yeah, that,
developing a new model where we stratify it. Does that make sense?
we may all come together. I
Okay.
shared the sort of the approach last week, and
Right.
everybody kind of acknowledged that, so that's why I'm
Okay.
suggesting we try and stick to that.
2, 3.
I'll let the discussion take
So,
place.
if you can use your example with any of the other positions, that might be helpful for us.
Okay.
Can we retouch how we propose how many increments to close the disparity between
Yep,
our people's salaries and the median?
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yep.
because some of these are gonna make a lot of money, but also it appears that they are legitimately underpaid from the median.
Yeah, so do you have a thought as to, is that
I was thinking 2 years.
over 2 years?
Yeah. Equal steps to close the gap for the percentage, and then adding the cost of living that goes with that.
Okay,
Why 2 years instead of immediately?
Just to lessen the blow.
To what?
So-
I mean,
Okay, how about lessen the blow back?
pardon me?
How about
Yeah.
lessen the blow back?
Oh.
Some of these places, we're gonna be raising with the cost of living, $14,000, $15,000, $16,000.
And for years, they've taken just 1%,
Mhm.
you know, and they did that at a time when the county had to have them do it. But I think we should bring them up, we've got the money now, we've got a healthy budget according to Mark. Let's bring them up to where they should be now. I'd even go retroactive back to January. And bring in, that's about $7,000 per position. But,
so.
putting it off for 2 years,
Yeah, I don't agree with
that doesn't make
either.
any sense to me.
I don't think that we can do the retroactive piece based on my read of the
Probably
Commissioner's
can't, but that's
resolution.
what I'd like to see.
Sure, understood. So we have a couple of different ideas. One is to do adjustments to a point to a, what'd you use the word,
Median,
of the median.
plus that year's cost of living, and we're not pushing it
So
the whole thing back
the
for
one-
2 years, we're only pushing the first half of it to the end of the month, because it'll become effective immediately then. So they'll get half of it next month.
So half of it next month, I'm not sure I followed you on that.
Well, if we decide that we do it in 2 steps, the recommendation for this year goes in at the 1st of May and becomes effective immediately. We're not pushing it back 2 years. We're pushing the first half back by the end of the month, and the second one at the start of
Next year.
next year.
Oh, the start in January 1.
Yeah.
And we could make that decision to do that as far as the dates, I believe. So we have a couple of thoughts right now, just to kind of clarify. One is to do 2 steps, May 1 and January 1. And another thought is to do
Two
it all at
steps
one
of
time.
what?
Of the
Exactly.
salary increase.
To move from the current salary to the median,
Okay,
So from
either,
here.
immediately,
one option, Mary Jo's proposed immediately,
right, okay.
and, sorry,
Right, is that right?
Brett.
Brent?
Brent, sorry. Brent has suggested 2
This
steps, May 1
Yeah.
and January.
Which one? Okay, that's you.
That's me.
That's
So there's a couple of
That's Brandon.
pieces in, thank you, in Brent's thought. One, he said his objective is to reach the median based on the the page with the blue bars on the other side. So just to clarify, the one with the blue bar is what the other counties' comparable salaries will be July 1. So this is where I thought you were going, Brent, was, we know that those other comparable counties, those that are in blue, that base the elected official salaries off the Superior Court judges are going to adjust effective, or July 1 based on the Superior Court judge increase July 1, and the others, the Kittitas and Walla Walla, what's on this page are 3% adjustments. So you were referring to that page as far as the median,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, and the other is to go to the median based on this page,
Right.
May 1. So, Lee and then Jan.
So I have a couple of thoughts. First one is, Brent put up a good reasoning why we would split it up into two sections. You know, honestly, your average person, including me, because before this, I had no idea of the back scene. Okay, I had no idea what's going on, how they budget, where the budget falls, none of that. So your average person is going to see an increase in a salary and go, why? Where did that come from? And to lessen not only the blow to their thought process, but also the possible blow back regarding our decisions, it would be probably a good idea to separate it into two, so you get a minor or a smaller adjustment by half.
Then you're getting the blowback twice.
Yes, yes and no.
That's true.
Get it now and get it over with.
Yeah, okay, so, I did a little bit of math here, and with the median sitting at where it is, I figured out what our percentages difference between where our salaries are and the median. I figured out a monetary difference for each position. If you guys can bear with me for a second. So assessor is $17,109 from where our 50% would be, okay? Same with auditor, and the clerk is $13,128. The coroner would be $14,394, and then the treasurer would be $14,326. And that's what our increases would need to be for each individual position to get them up to our 50% median. Yes, you have a great point in just ripping off the Band-Aid, calling it a day, you know, but at the same time, people are more used to seeing smaller increases more frequently, as opposed to a large increase and then a smaller increase for cost of living. You know what I mean? Like, in my job, I just got a 5.5% raise, you know. That's a small increase compared to 13 or 16% increase. And so.
But you can
All
look
right.
back over the
But
years
that was just the cost of
and
living.
see that they
increase.
only got 1%
Yeah,
from
exactly.
The cost of living
2013 on.
increase for the
Yeah,
state.
you
was
didn't get
1%.
1%.
Yeah, but what you're saying,
So,
your
Yeah.
small percentage
Jan
was
wanted
just the
to,
cost of living increase.
add something and then Devin.
Well, this is just a clarification point, or just to make sure everybody is aware of this. Well, those 5 positions start out the same today. If we accept the median rates down here as the be-all, end-all, only two will be at 104,565, and all the other 3 will be slightly different. The lowest being 100,584. So I just want to point that out, make sure everybody's looking at that. They're starting out the same now, but if we follow this recommendation, then they will not be the same afterwards. So just wanted to make sure everybody realized that. That was my only point.
That's it, do we go away
That's a
from
good
the
point.
Right, do we still keep them the same,
norm
or
that they
do
got
we?
where everybody's getting the same, or do we start juggling the numbers
Right.
and percentages?
For me, regarding that, personally, I understand why, for sake of ease, you keep all positions the same. But at the same time, you can't tell me that the coroner does the same difficulty or same type of job as a clerk, or the assessor does the same job as, you know, the treasurer or whatever. So just like job positions in corporate world, you know, you may have a comparable job as a forklift operator in a warehouse versus a forklift operator out in a yard, but there's differences in how they do their job
I agree
and what
with
they
you
require.
totally. I was just saying, even though we're starting in a position where they all make the same,
Yeah.
they will not if we follow this
Yeah.
median.
Yep.
That was the only thing I
That's a
wanted to
good
make sure.
point.
Thank you, Jan.
That's the only thing I wanted to make sure people knew
yeah.
before we made a decision.
Devin?
Going off of Mary Jo's point about their recent, I'd like us to consider, or maybe add to the considerations, our official considerations here, the recent history of increases, say over the past 5 years, to reflect the 1% increases that the commission's been getting over these times, and for us to officially you know, on paper or whatever, consider that.
Can you say that maybe just a little differently, make sure, I'm not sure that
I'd like us to add to the salary considerations, the list of considerations, the recent history of salary increases that the public officials have had over, say, let's say the last 5 years.
as part of why we're doing what we're doing.
Exactly.
Gotcha, okay, and,
And why we're getting to the decision, and why we're reaching the decision that we're reaching. If that makes sense.
so on,
You got both of them.
that, we can certainly do that. I was just looking real quick, seeing on Mary Jo's page. It was in my handwritten notes, which I couldn't read, and it didn't make it into the printed, so,
No problem.
we can definitely add that as a consideration, Devin, so thank you. And I'll word that when you see it on the draft salary considerations, you see if I got that right. Richard, did you have a thought yet, or Matt?
I have, I'll go back, a bit of my angst is that if we look at the historical, raises that have been adopted, it's pretty static, that 1%. I think it's a bit of a heavy lift for this group in 1 year to make up for that 1% increase. The commissioners could have established a higher percentage increase during that period of time to catch up. Because, I mean, the data shows that their current salaries are not comparable with other counties. I think we can all agree to that.
And probably haven't been for a long time.
Correct, but there was a point in time where they could have made those adjustments be more than 1%, but I don't think they decided to do that for multiple
Part
reasons.
of the reason they formed this group, so
And
they
I-
don't have blood on their hands.
Yeah, so,
I mean,
so it's a heavy, I think for a new
Not wrong.
commission to come in,
I think that's just
And-
happenstance.
do a double-digit increase in a single step could be a little problematic for us as a group. I understand Mary Jo's position. You have the funds, do it one time, you're gonna feel pain either way. Might as well feel it just this once. But at the same time, if we look at that through a step process, is there a step where we can get them a reasonable cost of living increase? And then the second year, another reasonable cost of living increase. The other part is, when you start looking at the other employee groups, represented and non-represented, they're also gonna be looking at these increases as well. So when they wanna bargain, it is, your elected officials received
13%.
and we're getting 3, and so that can cause friction throughout the system as well. I know from the data I'm looking at, we're gonna have to do something to get the elected official salaries comparable to other elected official salaries. The other thing I gotta point out too is, Jim talked about this last time about hiring for talent, and I think for people who hire employees, you have a salary schedule, you have a salary range, you wanna attract the best and brightest. With elected officials, those are not necessarily transferable jobs. AKA, you have to be elected to get into that position.
Yeah.
You can't apply to be a county commissioner in another county because it's not an open position. You have to be, live in and reside. So they're not transferable positions. And they're up for evaluation every 4 years. And that evaluation is by the voters, whether they are seen competent or not. So it's a little different. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, whatever the consensus of the group, the final decision is, I think we just have to be conscious of, for some reason, there's been created this gap, this disparity in wages between other counties. I just don't know if this group wants to do that heavy lift to make it all up in one felt swoop or not. Because it is gonna be some pain and there may be some bow-ways in other areas that we
Mhm.
create, just being sensitive to
So
that.
Matt, just to thank you for that, and especially for the insights on
Represented.
the other friction that could be occurred with the representative class. Just to summarize what you said, so you'd be in more favor of a step and 2 years, or are you thinking
I think a step is more palatable.
over 2 years? So I just, not right away, 2 years, you're not suggesting longer necessarily?
We would put ourselves out of a job, which is okay if we said 3, but I think 2 could be palatable.
Okay, all right.
Well, it's also subject
so-
to our discussion.
Yeah, so Jen?
I agree with Matt, although I totally agree with Mary Jo in that people are gonna complain whether we do like a half step now and a half step later. There's going to be moaning and groaning, and yes, we will get yelled at twice rather than once. But I think from the perspective of the taxpayer in this state, it just seems, everything else is going up tremendously too. And I think Randy himself said when he was in here, you don't run for this position to get rich. You run to it, there's an element of service. So I think dividing it in 2 is more palatable to me as a taxpayer than doing it all at once. Even though I do think I think Mary Jo's exactly right with what she said about ripping the Band-Aid off.
This position would be scheduled right here.
Devin?
Or are you talking
And
about-
maybe this will help us, and this is kind of a data request, and maybe this will help us in determining whether we want to do step or whether we want to do it all at once. But what I'd like to see is what would their current salary be if they had not received 1% increases and instead received something that was more reasonable. I don't know how we get to that, whether we use the 3% that's statewide, or we use whatever inflation was over those 5 years, or we use, but what, let's say blue sky and they didn't take the 1% and they got a average raise or a standard raise, what would their current salary, what would they look like now? What's that delta? And maybe we can use that number to get to a place, or get to a step, or, you know. I feel like right now, they've taken a pay cut over the last few years by going 1%. So what did that pay cut look like?
Yeah, I guess, I'd have a question for Mary. My comment on that would be, keep in mind that we're not, however Mary Jo said it, in the feedback for the memo, looking at people, we're looking at positions. And so the people that sat in any of these elected official seats across the board for any of the positions, I know that I moved here in 2012, and that the treasurer was the same. The assessor was the same. Well, I'm not even sure about that. I don't think so. So the treasurer might be the only one of the people that we're looking at, in the positions that we're looking at, that was the same. So I get the underlying premise of like looking back to catch up, but we're not looking at the people, we're looking at the position. So we're trying to figure out if the position, my question for Mary is do you have average salary increases for rep and non-rep positions since 2013?
I think I put the last 3 years in the initial packet, but for 2013, I'd have to go back and do a little bit more. We're averaging, since I've been here, 1.75 to anywhere to 225 are the across the board that we've been offering, but that's completely separate than what y'all are talking about, which is the market adjustment to get people to the median. So we try to keep those separate in our conversations, because that's your general wage increase, like you get that just for being here, right? As opposed to actual market data, which is what y'all are trying to determine for your median and how to divvy up those numbers. If that makes sense.
So, yeah, Devin, were you thinking of the market increases or the?
No, I was not thinking of market increase. That makes sense. We're looking at market as opposed to cost of living.
So market is similar to cost of living. The first number that she mentioned was actually what the salary increases were, because there's been some moves towards a market rate, I think, over the last few years, right?
Right,
So
but those are,
the
like I said,
competitive-
that's dealing with your median
the-
numbers.
The competitive adjustments,
Yeah.
so like the first number, the market rate adjustments, cost of living adjustments are
Those are totally separate.
separate, different.
And then the other thing with your non-represented groups, you still have step increases within their category. So you're ending your year, you're gonna go up to the next step or 3-year step, whatever you have that set. So you say you're gonna get an automatic increase because you're going up a step in a year of experience in that position.
Part of,
And then there would be added on potentially another 2% for a market adjustment. Or if it was a represented group, everyone received 2% plus a step. So
Personally,
it could be 3, could be a 3% step increase and maybe a 2% overall increase for the entire group. So it could be 5 in a year. Another year, it could be 1.3% or no
That's-
percent and then a
Keeping them
step.
separate helps keep that mess, because it can absolutely
my
start
other,
compounding.
my other observation, I understand, I fully appreciate the rep and the non-rep references to the county's staff salaries, but I think that that's only good as one of the points of reference. I make a scratchy face for Mary on this,
I agree.
because elected officials are not doing this for a competitive salary.
Right.
As somebody mentioned, they're not transferable positions, and so therefore comparing or adding, we're not adding more weight, but utilizing what happens with staff salaries, whether they're repped or non-repped, can be a little bit, it's not the same thing, right? This is a different elected official, and elected officials in part, I don't know how it's worded, should probably be thinking about their, however it's phrased, giving back as part of their elected office, but doing so in a way that is not, that they're able to survive, that we're not putting somebody in financial challenges because they chose to take an elected official's position, and they're probably getting a lower salary for that. So, I don't know if that makes sense, it's gibberish. But Roger and Braden, I wanted to, you haven't added or shared anything on this part of the conversation, just wanted
I'm
to
listening, everything's good, I'm agreeing with Brett so far.
with Brett?
Yeah,
Okay.
Braden's loving on his dog.
Oh, with Braden?
Yeah.
Oh, with Brent, okay.
Let's see what the dog says.
So, Braden, did you have anything that you'd
You'd
like to add at this point?
No, I mean, I think the general discussion has pretty much covered my thoughts on, the matter as well. It's tough when you don't have a private sector position to compare, these public sector jobs to. The only one that there might be is, I don't know, coroner. If you look at the qualifications that are needed to become a coroner, right, you're looking at PhD level.
No, that's a medical examiner.
No, this is.
So.
You just have to get elected.
Yeah, as a coroner, you don't have any educational requirements to do a job regarding that. The medical examiner is the one that pronounces, cause of death and everything like that. That's why the counties like, in my experience, Okanagan County, and then I don't know if Clallam and Jefferson do it as well, but their prosecuting attorneys will take on-call weekends being the coroner, and if they have any questions, then they'll forward that to the medical examiner from another county that they have a contract with.
So Braden, just from what we've been discussing so far, the target that we've been contemplating is the median for the position.
Yeah, exactly.
And then either a two-step process or a do it all at once right away step. What is your thought on those two options?
Well, I think generally, you're going to need to give, the budget and the department some time to transition and adjust. So I think a two-step, a gradual transition into things, it would be the most palliative. I'm just saying that as a taxpayer, but also just as general common sense, right? In order to adjust, if you hit somebody all at once, right, there might be unintended consequences to that. So that's kind of all my thoughts on it.
Okay. I just wanted to go back and the page.
What would a first step look like? I mean,
Like
how much would that
8%?
be?
So if
Like
we're looking
halfway there.
at the assessor's salary, and the current amount is 87,456. The median is 104,565. The difference between those
$17,109.
is 17,109. So the
So you take
first
half.
step would be half, or
Half.
8,500, and then theoretically, 8,500 in the second step. The question that does that help answer your question?
It does, I still don't like it.
Okay, and so
But that doesn't add the 3% cost of living that they're gonna get on July 1st on top of that.
So embedded in the median is both the adjustment for the Superior Court judge, right? So, so what we just talked about includes preemptively the move for those counties that go from 217 to 228,000 for the Superior Court judge. And for those counties that do not get a test in Walla Walla, it includes the 3%.
Yeah.
So it does include that amount.
Okay, well, I believe she told us earlier in the meeting that this is as of today, but on July 1st, it's going to change.
That's
The
what
blue-
the salary here
The
is.
number with the blue bar on the top,
That's,
the medians at the
July
bottom
1st.
are as of July 1 of 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what we did when I put this spreadsheet together to summarize, rather than the other page, which is currently what others comparables are versus the Mason County actual salary today, those would have no adjustments. That is what it is today. The ones in blue incorporate the increase of about 217 to 228, I think is about 5%, roughly, and the 3% for the other two. We'll do that math real quick.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing, well, you could take this tact, so you could say 7.5 in May 1.
Mhm.
Step 2, 7.5,
Yeah, it'd be about
January 1st
5.1%,
25.
like that.
That's 15%. And then this group would meet sometime in 25 and say, is there another step or catch up? But it would be, because
That
the
would be-
time's compressed. I mean, I'm throwing that out.
Plus, it gets
As
us
an-
past the election.
It gets us past the election, but then we're in a new cycle as a commission in 25. If we set a rate that goes May 1, another rate that goes Jan 1 of 25, then we meet as a group in 25 and set another rate. That's just a number. You could go 5%, 5%, and then come back and in that 25.
Yeah,
I don't know what the number is.
So can we just pause real quick, and can somebody find the full resolution? It's in one of these packets.
the original resolution?
Yeah. From our county commissioners.
Yeah, it's,
so it's in there.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about January 1. Oh, here it is.
So can I ask, what is the normal budget cycle?
Mr. Neary?
January through December.
So January 1 would work for the next cycle. for the
So if
second.
you're gonna, if you would step it, that would work, and that, our decision comes in,
The third
our decision starts in May, so that's May through December,
it's the third.
and then Jan 1,
Another
and that would be Jan 1 until the commission meets again, hypothetically for the next Jan 1.
I don't
How
see
did that coincide with the elected officials' terms?
You wanted our,
I found it, yeah.
Would the next step
Well, we don't need to worry
hit the
about
next
that.
batch of,
So what
our,
what the resolution,
just curious.
So what the resolution says is this, is that,
Only one
Any,
commissioner's right.
any change in salary shall
Only
be
one
filed by the
commissioner
commission with the county
decisions.
auditor no later than May
To
1,
benefit from the-
2024, and no later than May 1st every 2 years thereafter.
Oh,
And then it also says, all
But we
subs,
could do it
oh,
before.
yeah, let me finish if I could. All subsequent increases in salary shall take effect on January 1st, the year following the filing with the county auditor. So so I believe what this is saying is that, so I guess just a clarification, Mark, how do you read the resolution? If we file something by May 1, does it go into effect May 1, or does it go into effect January 1st?
So in your first year, it goes into effect immediately. Then in subsequent years, it goes into effect January 1. We start budget process at the county in June. So if we have that information in June of 2024, so the example that you guys have been throwing around today,
Yep.
splitting it half now, half in 2025, then our budget director could actually utilize that information to project salary expenses for 2025.
And then before May 1st of 2025, we would convene again to make a determination about what we decided the salaries would be effective January 1 of 2026.
Which works perfect with our budget cycle, because then Jen, our budget director, has the information in June.
There was just something that was kind of blurry about the wording, and so thank you for that clarification. So just to review for everybody's benefit, any decision we make now would go into effect May 1st of 2024. If we said, in addition, there's a subsequent increase, January 1 of 2025, the resolution would allow that. We would convene again, to Matt's point, prior to May 1 of 2020. We would make at that time would go into effect January 1 of 2026. Yeah. Just so we're all on the same page.
Mark, can you help us, county elected officials, do they take office, is it Jan 1 or is it in December? I don't know what
Our
your
normal
resolution.
cycle, it's January 1st.
Okay, thank you.
So
So,
they'll be elected in November, they
right.
would take office January 1st.
So any new elected officials, this would take place on their first, the day they swear, they're sworn in. Okay.
Devin, where were you at with this? Like a step process over 2 years or right away? Or did you have an opinion yet?
I don't have an opinion. I'm still taking the temperature on that. I think that's really have made good points. I think they should be paid all at once, but and that's a pretty big increase in salary at one time. My concern, well, if I had a concern, I guess it would be that the next elected cycle would get the full increase as opposed to just the half, so I'm not sure if
But
that's,
so would the people that currently elected now, not running again,
if they're running, yeah, if
they would get the full effect on January 1 as well.
Yeah.
everybody's running, or everybody has to run.
Yeah, yeah.
So why don't I suggest this for the moment? Because I think we're kind of, remember, I was hoping that our goal wasn't to hit the bullseye. I mean, I'm always happy when I do that when I'm playing darts, because usually the dart doesn't go in straight for me, but usually it goes in sideways. But,
Beware of wires.
but at least the first or second ring, and I think we're kind of honing in on that.
Yeah.
Maybe to add some clarity a little bit, and I think Mary Jo, you'd asked this, we can, for each of these elected positions that we're talking about right now, which the assessor, the auditor, clerk, coroner, and treasurer, we can put together, here's their current salary, here's the increase compared with using the medians of those 9 comparable salaries. This is the amount and the percentage of the increase if we did it at one time, and this would be the amount and the percentage of each increase if we did a 2-step May 1 and January 1. At least sometimes that might be easier to actually see the numbers that way, and then we can
Yeah.
think about that and move forward. Is that making sense, Mary Jo?
You're assuming taking the median, but what about what they've done in the past where they all 5 get the same amount? If we take the median, then we're gonna have all this juggling with
That's-
all the percentages.
And so by having all of the numbers in front of us, then we could like look at that too and say, how does that feel to us?
Well, I think we should,
And,
yeah.
and we could then say, okay, making 2 steps makes sense, but we want it all to be the same, and do we want it to be the same to the lower number or the higher number? If we're using the approach of comparable salaries and using the median, then it's going to vary.
Or-
And because all of the other comparable, the other comparable counties don't do it all the same. So,
You could do simple math, you could average the median of all those positions.
I was thinking that as well.
Yeah, the sheriff position is kind of an outlier, but, I mean, and it's the position, not the person, I wanna make sure I'm really clear on that, but, I mean, you could, that's simple math, and, you know, take the average.
so we can
of
do
those.
those 3 numbers, we can do, median 1 step, median 2 step, and then the average of all median 1 step and 2 step.
Yeah, that would give you a percentage for all.
And then we can look at that
Yeah.
and see how we're developing that. So I've got a chart with 4 numbers, and those are all pretty easy. So with these positions, we're right at the moment. Is that any alterations to that?
I have a
with
question
that.
for the people, if I may, for the people who are pro steps. Are we committed to doing, like, if we have X amount increase and we're doing over 2 steps, are we thinking 50-50 on the steps, or could we, you know, play with that percentage?
You could definitely play with it.
I think we could play with it, and I would suggest that it'd be easier.
75-25, something like that? I'm trying to find a compromise, I guess, between the two
Yeah,
factions of thought.
I can come up with the multiple, so we'll have 8 columns of numbers, and we'll be able to look at all of that.
I guess one of the questions I would ask, or that I would think is, one of the things I think several of us have expressed tonight is perception by
Voters.
the voters, or just all the residents of Mason County, not necessarily the voters. And so, you know, we're already gonna get criticized, if we give any more than the 1%, we're gonna get criticized.
Yes.
So the question is 50-50 at least makes, you know, we're gonna give them half now, half later. But if you start playing around with 75, 80, 60, 40, you know, how did we come up with that? Why are we doing that?
Right.
You know, those are the types of questions we need to be prepared to answer,
So let's think about that if we could, because we have about 5 minutes left. We don't have any public comment unless anybody's online or anything else came in writing. I'd like to jump to the next category in the next 5 minutes, just to see how we feel about the county commissioners, and if we should follow the same process as what we've just talked through, which has been a really good conversation, I felt, for the last half hour, 35 minutes or so. So to review, what we're gonna attempt to do for next week is bring back numbers that show a median, using the median, making an adjustment to the median in 1 step, making the adjustment to the median in 2 steps. We'll also bring back numbers that show that 2 step as a 50-50 step, or as a 75-25 step. And then we will do another calculation using let me finish real quickly. We'll do another, the average the medians of these positions, and then do a 1 step and a 2 step and a 50-50 and a 75-25 for the 2 step. That's kind of where we're at right now. So did Braden have something to add?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask him, was I saw his hand come
Oh.
up. Were you trying to,
No, I didn't have anything
Yeah.
to say. I think my dog just noticed that.
okay, I saw something come out the phone and I was wondering if you're trying to get our attention.
Thanks for checking.
No.
Yep.
Harry's got a few things to say on it.
Alright, cool.
So,
I had a quick question.
yeah, okay.
Now, whatever we decide to do as far as the median step increase
Yeah.
type thing, split 50-50, whatever, is all this gonna include then a cost of living increase?
Yeah, it already does.
It already does.
It already does,
This one
okay.
already does.
So that won't be in addition to going forward, there won't be a cost of living increase.
Going
It'll just be
forward.
what we put in
Going
place.
forward, when we revisit this next year, we'll have to take that into consideration, but these two steps right now are already included.
Okay.
I would
gotcha.
consider this a cost of living increase, what we're discussing.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, going in the future, what is it gonna entail?
And Jim, I know,
Yeah.
what you're proposing kind of sounds like a little dance, like step one, step back, so I would, the one I'd like to see is the average, the median averaged out, and then all those positions
Yes. Yeah.
reflecting the same.
Yeah, you got
I think
it.
sheriff is a separate discussion.
So what I
so-
need to do right now is take a feel for the group as to whether or not we want to continue this discussion for 15 more minutes to do another group, which would be the county commissioners, or if we want to call this at night, because we're at the 2-hour mark, and I think we need to do that, right? According to my public meeting.
Yep. We need to vote to extend or vote to stop.
Because that's what they said on the video.
Yeah.
Let's say call it a night.
I second the motion.
So, all right, so,
All right.
we,
Is that a motion to adjourn?
so, I lost my agenda again. It was
But-
buried into here
We've
somewhere.
got, I
It's not
think
an
we've
official
done
motion, so
everything.
We,
So just,
we didn't get to the organizational charts or
so
position
is there an
descriptions.
agenda close by? Sorry.
Well, no, we're looking at the agenda.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I was just,
So we have, we've done quite a bit of discussion, that's agenda item number 9. The public comments, we don't have anybody. The calendar, the next meeting will be next Monday, April 15th at 5:30, Building 9, which is right next door that way. Is that right? So,
Yes, if you're looking at the commission building, it's immediately to the right, right by the alley there.
so that's where we will meet.
you said building 9?
Forget that,
Building
walk into
9,
this building.
You're
Okay.
gonna come to my place.
We'll come,
Come to your
So-
place.
Yeah.
Jar,
All right.
hang
Dude.
out.
we'll come with
Dog.
you.
BYOB.
We'll send the dog. Bring my
That's
dog.
Mary Jo, if you-
Brandon can say that.
I love that face
Adjourn.
that she made. She was like,
Mary Jo has a motion to adjourn and
I second it.
Second.
Jan seconded it. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, everyone, for a very good discussion this evening. Thank you, Braden.
Yeah.
Hitting their
Productivity.
stride.